Welcome to the Wedding Celebrant Show with me, Lisa Flant, an independent wedding celebrant living and working in the beautiful county of Cornwall. On the show, I will be sharing insights, tips, and a confession or two, as well as chatting to some amazing wedding professionals along the way. So if you're planning a wedding, or if you're a professional wedding celebrant, or perhaps you're just interested in some behind-the-scenes gossip, then this is the podcast for you. Welcome to episode 1 with me, Lisa Flant, independent owner and lead celebrant of Celebrant in Cornwall. Thank you so much for joining us. I have to say, we're really excited about starting our own podcast. It's one of those things we've been meaning to do for such a long while, and we're always pretty busy. So starting this venture mid-wedding season is probably not our best idea, but hey, why not? So this is obviously our first show, and I'm guessing you might not know anything about me or the things we get up to at Celebrant in Cornwall. We thought we'd use this opportunity for a few questions and answers. And for this, I do need the help of our producer, Rick. So over to you, Rick.
Hello there. Well, okay. So I've got a list of questions here. Let's get straight on with the first one. Tell me about your life in Cornwall.
So I do love my life in Cornwall. It's pretty bonkers mostly, and there is never enough time to do half the things you want to, but that is kind of how life is when you're self-employed. So I do live in quite a central location in Cornwall, which is just perfect for getting about all of the county, particularly in those busy summer months. But it's also kind of nice for those clients who just want to pop in and see us straight off the A30. There we are, a little hamlet not far from the Camel Trail, which you might have heard of. And that's also quite handy for sampling the local fizz at Camel Valley Vineyard, which I really recommend. So I do consider myself a bit of a country girl, but I have a yearning to live by the sea. And all year round, I do run a marketing business. I have 2 big clients, one based in Cornwall, the other in Paris. So I split my life between working for them and running my Celebrant business, which includes marketing it and talking to prospective clients, interviewing and writing for new clients, preparing for ceremonies. And then Saturdays, I'm usually delivering a ceremony. Although I have noticed that this year we have had more weekday ceremonies than ever before. So this has meant a lot of extra juggling.
Next question. How did you get into the wedding industry?
So I've always been quite creative. I have a performance background. I was a professional dancer in another life, and I have always loved to write, even since I was a little girl. But very early on in my career, I was really lucky to get into a job managing events. So I managed everything from royal visits to world-class sporting events like the Tour de France. I organised arts festivals, music and dance productions, and all of that was fabulous experience, really good for developing planning and problem-solving skills. And then I took a slightly different move. I went into marketing, and that embraced my writing skills. So that was fantastic. And somehow that led into becoming a marketing speaker and a trainer at events all over the country. And then eventually I did set up my own small business, which is providing marketing support to other businesses. But when it comes to how did I actually get into the wedding industry, it was just before we moved to Cornwall, actually. I was at my best friend's wedding, and even though I was bawling my eyes out for most of her ceremony, I do remember watching the lead registrar at work, and he was quite the showman. And I thought to myself at the time, that looks like a great job. And I thought, well, I've got the skills and I've got the confidence. Perhaps I could do that. And by complete chance, a vacancy came up for a deputy registrar and ceremony officer. And I got the job. And 6 months in, something really negative happened. And it happened just before a ceremony. And it was quite the wake-up call, and it really did make me think that couples, they do deserve so much more than this very regimented approach to their wedding day. And I remember thinking there has got to be another way to do this. So I looked into training to become an independent celebrant. I did that, and I set up my business, and I met two amazing women to work with me. And here we are.
Okay, cool. Question 3. Describe your perfect ceremony.
So if you mean what's my ideal ceremony, well, I did have one of those last week. It was indoors at a lovely venue, which meant we didn't need to worry about the vagaries of the weather. And that was really lucky, as I recall, because we had hurricane force winds that day. And this was a really intimate affair with just family members, and the couple was so adorable. We'd met in person, and that's not always possible. You know, a lot of my clients do live long distance from me, but we made the effort to meet up. And we really clicked. And then we maintained this really good remote relationship. And that resulted in a ceremony with such beautiful content. But the highlight, it was the most wonderful wedding vows. And each of them had written these from the heart. And they made everybody, including the photographers, very emotional. And I think those really are my favourite moments. You don't need to have all the bells and whistles and fancy additions to your ceremony. It just needs to be beautifully written, and it needs to reflect the couple's journey and those words of commitment, which are 100% meaningful. That was special. It was perfect, and it reminded me of how much I love those kinds of ceremonies.
Okay, question 4. Here we go. What are you looking forward to most in the coming months?
Well, incredibly, even after nearly 300 ceremonies, there are still some new things to keep me on my toes, which is good. So looking ahead, next week, I've got a ceremony in which I will be speaking Korean. And I've also included a Korean ritual in the ceremony, which is kind of cool. And then thinking beyond that, I have a ceremony for some Swiss clients, and I'm going to be reading quite a lot of the ceremony in German, which is another first. And then there's fun things that happen. I've got this fabulous ceremony for a couple whose wedding I delivered a few years ago, and we're going to be renewing their wedding vows. And at the end of the ceremony, they are going to jump into Boscastle Harbour. And then coming up to the end of the year, I've got my first Indian fusion ceremony. So kind of looking ahead and looking back, there is very little risk of getting bored, that's for sure.
What do you enjoy about being a wedding celebrant?
I guess the variety is something quite special, and the creativity, which is always close to my heart, and probably the fact that you never stop learning, because every couple and every ceremony is different, and it is a world away from being a legal registrar. But I think the thing that's really special and that I enjoy the most about being a celebrant is when you work with couples who absolutely love the process. And jointly, you become responsible for creating those moments which are just so special, and they're often deeply emotional. And that is really a very unique thing in a job. And it's probably my favourite part of being a celebrant.
So leading on from that, how would you describe your style?
Well, I have been asked this before, and I always say that my smile is my style. But thinking about that a bit more, our style is pretty laid back, yet we're still super professional. We know exactly what we're doing. This means our couples feel in a really safe pair of hands, and that is so important. They can relax and they can feel really confident that their ceremony will be the best part of their day. And I think our style is also very supportive. We bring a good energy, and couples always say we're really warm and thoughtful and friendly people, which is lovely to hear. And I think what always shines through is how invested we are in our couple's ceremonies and making them the best they can possibly be.
And lastly, I read in one of your blogs that authenticity is everything to you, both personally and to your business. Can you tell me a bit more what you mean by that?
Sure. So this was prompted by seeing a leading Celebrant trainer post on her social media platform that actually you don't need to be your authentic self. And what she said was, you should be what you need to be to get the job done. And I looked at that and I was quite shocked to see a flurry of people agree with her. And it really got me thinking about it. That's not the kind of celebrant I want to be, because for me, being true to how I want to run my business and my life, it just lifts the pressure of fitting in and of, having to do or say whatever it's needed to be popular or look cool or get the gig. We never blag a job. If a job doesn't fit our style, we say so. If it's something we are not comfortable doing, we let the couple know it's not our thing. What this means is our couples get a really honest picture of who we are and what we offer. And that is so much better for them, and it's much better for us as well. It's why we refer clients to other celebrants if we don't think we're the right fit. And reflecting on that, maybe sometimes we do have fewer bookings as a result, but those we do attract align so much more strongly with our business. And I truly believe that is the kind of magic we all need in our lives.
So that's the end of the list of questions for getting to know you. So are you ready for some quick fire questions?
I'm ready.
Yeah, already then. Okay, so here we go. Question 1. What's the craziest thing you've ever done?
There's been so many, but I was once in a knife throwing act, and yeah, that was a bit nuts.
To say the least. Okay, question 2. Any claims to fame?
Yep, got a few. I'll choose a tame one. There was an artist on children's TV in the 80s and 90s. He was called Tony Hart, and he launched a product called painting pencils, and I was the little girl on all of the promotional packaging and adverts.
On the box, there she was. Okay. Question 3. Dog or cat?
Both.
Okay. Superhero power?
This is easy. Flying. I was quite sure that I could fly when I was a child, and my mum was so worried she had to nail my bedroom windows shut.
Actually nail them shut. Okay, yeah, that's quite a worry. How about extrovert or introvert?
This might surprise you, but I do think I'm an introvert, perhaps with some extrovert tendencies.
Yep, that does surprise me. Okay. Question 6. Oh, here we go. 3 things on your bucket list.
Bucket list is quite hard, but I can think of 3 things, I think. So my first, and these aren't crazy, by the way, my first is finding our dream home. Would love an eco home, possibly even off-grid, a great big veggie patch and a spot to watch the sunset. That would be amazing. The next thing, and I really need to make this happen, I would love to get back into volunteering. I used to volunteer with my husband at an animal shelter, and we did this for many years when we lived in Somerset, and we miss it hugely. And the third one, I've had some recent inspo for this actually, is seeing the Foo Fighters live. I cannot believe this has not happened yet. So on my bucket list they go.
Cool. Okay, so next one. One thing that instantly makes your day better.
A great big belly laugh at something silly, often something prompted by my husband or something that one of the cats has done.
Sounds like a funny chap. Okay, question 8. Here we go. Favourite place in Cornwall?
Now that's kind of tricky because I do get to see some lovely places. But I will go back to one of my favourite places. That will be Gwythian, because I really do feel you can't beat a big expanse of sand and surf and not too many people.
What are you most proud of?
I think it has to be juggling 2 businesses that I started myself from scratch.
Okay, and last question. What's your perfect day off?
A long walk on the coast, ideally with some great views. And if you can throw in a decent lunch and a nice glass of rosé, that's pretty perfect.
Confessions of a Registrar.
So this feels a bit naughty, but I do want to let you in behind the scenes of what life was like when I was a deputy registrar for a local authority. And despite the awful pay and the fact that I was working weekends when I already worked all week on my marketing business, being a registrar was something I really wanted to do and which I thought I'd be good at. So my first confession to you is about the selection process. So I was shortlisted for interview, and here is what I needed to do to get the job. I had to copy out a wedding certificate using a fountain pen and read a poem by Shakespeare. And that was it. No event management tasks, no creative writing skills, no problem solving, no performance skills, all the things you associate with being a great celebrant. No. Could I read? Could I write? And could I speak? And despite all of this, I felt so lucky to get the job, super lucky, because I was told they got hundreds of applications for these jobs. But as I soon discovered, they also take on a lot of people. Obviously, because there are a lot of weddings on the weekends. The most I had one day was 8, but I knew of colleagues who had up to 12 on one day. But also because the staff turnover is pretty significant. And that's why you see these roles advertised quite regularly. But I may reveal more in a future episode. Coming up next time on the Wedding Celebrant Show, I will be talking to one of my favourite people. She runs multiple successful wedding businesses, and sometimes she even finds the time to be a celebrant for us. Tune in when I chat with Caroline Griffiths as we discuss the good, the bad and the ugly of working with wedding planners. That wraps it up for this episode. Thanks so much for listening to the Wedding Celebrant Show, brought to you by the team at Celebrant in Cornwall.